Hey, hello, Captain Nemo. How are you? Everything all right? Hope you're having a great day so far, and thanks for joining in here. I'm just going to hold on a little bit till we get more folks on board here. I just thought, as we discussed last week, had some questions and some feelers put out about programming and so forth, what to discuss on the streams as we go forward here. And I'd be interested in, I got some great feedback on maybe doing some basic perspective stuff here. Just hold on and we'll just take a minute here and go through a bit of a review and show you how this thing begins to function and get it started here. So how have you been, Captain Nemo? Good? Well, you and me both. Nemo, I can't get over the fact that it's taken such a long period of time to get this thing up and running here. So again, my sincerest apologies. We want to make sure when this thing begins to launch, when it does launch, I just had a meeting with my IT guys on Friday late in the day, and we're again going through systems like changing the platform and a lot of different things here. So I know it sounds like a broken record, but we should be up and running soon. In fact, as soon as I'm done with my stream today, I've got to run down to a meeting and make sure we get this all. I want that thing up and running as soon as we possibly can get it. So thanks for your interest and your patience, Nemo. When it all comes together, I think it'll be worthwhile. We're doing some pretty interesting things with the new program, offering some subscriptions and a membership and so forth, and a lot of video information on there, as well as some of the lesson planning work. So maybe changing the gallery a little bit too, some of the information I've been doing in the past. So thanks again. Here we go. Well, I think I'm getting started here, so it's not to delay your day here. A lot of questions have come up over the last few streams and so forth about the drawing skills and so forth and how things are done and the like. And I just thought it'd be kind of nice today to go back and to begin today with this little booklet here. I'm putting together a publication here. I've got to refine this thing, but I thought I'd open it up here for discussion here. If you're interested in looking at something like this, I'll be more than happy to refine this publication and make it available to my audience and to my followers on the Twitch program here. But this whole publication, I'll go through it very quickly here, deals with the elements of perspective and how it's all built, what to use it for, how it's used, and what it looks like when you go through the process. So let me just kind of go through this very quickly here. This will be the cover page. We're going to modify some of the sketches on this and bring it up to speed and get a publication put together in booklet form. So first page in, for example, we'll go through some definitions and how that begins to look and what we're doing here. Hey, Shazon, how are you, man? Good to see you. Going through some basic lesson plan here for just basic drawing skills. So as I said in the beginning here, this is a publication. Let me go back to page one here. This publication, I've been working on this for about the last maybe month or so. Just putting thoughts together on how to help an audience such as yourself and people like yourself who have a lot of skill. Don't misunderstand me. It's just not a demeaning comment at all, but hopefully a motivational comment for you, as well as me. I mean, I go through this all the time. I practice every day. So, but this book has been put together. I've got to refine some things, but I'm going to make it available to individuals who might be interested in my website when it's all put together. I'll make the announcement as we go here. So please, when we go through this today, and you see this publication coming together, let me know if you are interested, and I'll make available some information on the website to purchase it or to make it available to you when it becomes ready to go. So this is the basic cover page, and the first few pages are just dealing with table of contents and definitions, what horizon line does, and what volumetrics do, how to set up a facing plane, section lines, and some basic illustration work. I mean, these sketches were done some time ago, and I'm going to review these guys and make them a little hotter as we go. So then we go into the certain. What we're going to do today is introduce this lesson of getting into one-point perspective. And I know that's a scary thing for a lot of people to think about in terms of what perspective does, but my goodness, I can sincerely tell you, once you begin to see how space functions and what perspective does, it opens up the door to terrific illustration work, because once you understand the subject matter, then you begin to know it. And I've always felt the great Sid Mead line was, if it ain't broke, break it. Well, it's time to break it and begin to move into new areas here and to let you see how this stuff begins to function. So the first two pages are dealing with one point, how to set up a facing plane. I'll go through all this and demonstration here. We'll go through the book very quickly. Then how to expand that one point perspective, open up planes and begin to move through it. The second page gets into same set of circumstances. Pardon me here. get into 2-point perspective and what that begins to look like, how you set up the horizon line, what the central vanishing point does, how to set up a leading edge, then begin to build a proper cube in proportion. And I think that's a really a worthwhile explanatory piece to talk about here. Proportion is everything. When I go into vehicle design, for example, the biggest thing I look for is proportion. What are the heights? What are the widths? What are the scales? What do the tear lines look like? How do you begin to develop a new form by using perspective as a really interesting set of circumstances to work well? So, hey, how you doing there, Melissa? Good to see you. So again, proportion is everything. And that's the great thing about the cube. Now, cube is a boring subject matter, but I'm going to use it today as a springboard to begin to develop more compound shape. So please bear with me. And if at any given time throughout this little conversation, I begin to really bore you to death or just kind of put on a chat on the screen, hey, enough said, let's move on. I do not want to get into a situation where this becomes laborious for you. I want to make this fun, and it is fun. These sketches look very technical, but they're all freehand, and you can do that very easily, but practice, practice, practice. So the two things today we're going to look at is how to develop a proportion system using the cube as a building block, because it's the basis of all the DNA of all things being done or produced visually. So that's 2-point perspective. Then move into things like, this is what you start to look like when you use 2-point perspective, little thumbnail sketches. How to move the view around, looking at different shapes and forms, and then magnifying that into a 2-point piece. One view from the right-hand side and one from the left-hand side, but they're all functioning. Notice all the drive lines in here begin to really become active. And when I go through a sketch, no matter how sophisticated or unsophisticated the sketch is, I've said this before in several streams, that I don't draw, in fact, it was Shazan, I think I mentioned to you, I don't draw the object itself. I draw the structure around it. That's why this proportion thing is so critical and so interesting to get a hold of. So once that's done, that's some 2-point stuff. Let me go quickly here through this. And the next page gets into circles. They're not ellipses, and I think that's really critical, that we don't get caught up with ellipses. That's a mathematical situation, but a circle, yes, it's mathematical, but it's much more conducive to good drawing and exactly how things come together, how to get compound shape down. For example, I see a lot of work, I work with a lot of firms that try to really for lack of a better term, very fluid and very organic shapes, for example, in vehicle design, and they get the far side fenders twisted, and all that stuff is really kind of strange. And it's not because they're not dealing with, notice again, the face of a cube. That's the DNA. That face begins to generate all these different circumstances in developing great, really simple circles in perspective. So that's the next phase. Then it goes into things like this, where we get into how to move it into like a major and a minor axis and what they do. And then we move quickly here. And again, putting it into practice, developing cylinders, getting into things like circles, how they function. Notice how, again, face of the cube, face of the cube. We're drawing right through it. Face of the cube, face of the cube. That cube becomes paramount here. And again, I want to drive that point home. We're not going to develop cubes, but we use it as a basis to develop really interesting shapes and surfaces. Every one of these sketches are results of structure. Notice, I've always drawn, let's look at this, all the structures in red. Where the circle is, how you build it, how you build those shapes. Then we come back into, again, what light source does, light and shadow, a couple of things like angle of light, direction of light, and all those pieces come together. And then you open the next page, putting objects into place and using that simple elevation in perspective and what that light shadow does. In this area right in through here, for example, those crosshairs, tell me what that shadow is doing. And this is, hey, Ballistic, how are you? Doing well? Trying to get some work done so I can relax. Oh, very good. Hope you relax well. Again, same thing, angle of light and direction of light. And then notice that shadow is really minimal here. It's this area and that area. Enough said. We'll go back into these things. Each lesson, every Monday, we'll go through a certain series of lessons to kind of highlight these things for you. And again, into page composition. A lot of times you do like a series of sketches. I work with clients, for example. To me, page composition is really exciting. To make it dynamic enough so that the interest is there when you're looking at the sketches and so forth. So it's not a blend A, B, C, and D, but you have a composition. There are the basic units. There's the product sitting inside that element here. Same thing again, page composition, what the elements look like inside that page composition, how you can work with that as a development to tell your story in a very dynamic way. Again, little sketches here. Let's turn these sideways. How to work with surface delineation. Notice these guys are real loose pencil sketches or ballpoint pen sketches, but look what's happening to them. The lesson here is to get the concept down and then keep the shading, for example. Notice how I'm following the surface. The horizontal surface, the stroke goes horizontal. Pardon me, let me do that again. In a horizontal surface, notice the stroke goes horizontal. In a vertical surface, we take it from dark to light, right back to the light source. All this stuff and we're going to reveal in lesson form of Monday to Monday. Same situation here. Notice all horizontal surfaces parallel to the surface. Then the verticals go vertical. The lesson there is all surfaces that are horizontal, illustrate them horizontally. All surfaces that are vertical, illustrate them vertically, and always lean back to the light source. And I'll get back to that as we go here. Now the same sequence over here. Little series of thumbnail sketches that do the same thing on this end. And let's go back to square. I think we're going to go back and do this. Pardon me here. Get these guys organized. Then the next series of pages, same thing. Notice how that same process, this is a product now, where we actually taken that product and said, oh, look at that. Little handheld vac, for example. There's the actual shape and perspective. Here's the light source coming into it. And there's a shadow it develops. It's all working with the fundamentals of how space functions and operates. Same with this shape and same with that shape. Again, same purpose. Notice all things vertical, stroke vertically. All things horizontal, straight horizontally. And then last but not least, the last sheet we'll work with here. Let me put this in place. Let's see, where am I here? It goes there. The last one is just looking at certain things like softscape illustration work, how to develop trees in soft shapes. Surfaces, the circle, draw into it, tone it. Shrubbery, same thing. Circle, notice again, it all comes back down to geometric shapes. In this case, they're not cubes, but it's all part of that volumetric study we're going to move into these lesson plans from day to day. And then the last page is obviously getting into human scale and how that begins to function. Interesting how it's an eye level. There's the proportion blocks right through here. There's the actual sketch, and then turning it around eye level again, right where we are, eye level, and then putting multiples together, all falling in that same eye level to keep the perspective honest and straightforward. So let me stop right there. Sorry for the long conversation here, folks, but I hope that is some help to you. As I said early on in our conversation, I hope this is the cover page, for example, those of you who are just coming a little bit on the lakeside, and by the way, thank you for joining me today. We're going to start doing some sketch demonstration work here in a moment. But is this something you'd be interested in me putting together and getting out to you to help you as far as drawing skills are concerned? So as we go through this setup today, let me know by the end of the stream, or if you'd like to. Again, I will announce my, it looks like oh, thank you, Pixel. I hope it is too. But at the end of the session today, I'll put again a notice on my website or my email address at jim@drcontrast.com. Let me know what you think, and based on your input, I'll go ahead and have some of these produced, and we can get it ready for sale and put it out to you available for purchase and use. It'll be of some use to you. So let's kind of put that aside for a minute here, and let's get into the real meat and potatoes of this thing today. I've already done a little thumbnail sketch here. I'm going to start with a very simple premise. We're going to deal with what is known as one-point perspective. And I'll go back again to what Sid Mead, I mean, that voice, that voice is always there with me. I've never forgotten what this guy does. And what he meant, when he made a conversation about perspective, he said this: perspective is the genesis of illustration. And how true that is. In other words, all of you out there, each one of you in the audience, and again, thank you for joining me today. All of you have great talent. You have an asset that can't be purchased. But the more you work with that asset, the more you begin to develop the fact that perspective is so, I've always said this, give me someone who understands perspective, and I'll give you, and he'll own the world. He'll rule the world. Because it's such a difficult subject matter to not ascertain, but to practice toward. It's absolutely amazing how perspective functions. As we go through these lessons on Monday, we're going to start with building block material first. Then I'm going to slowly turn it into some really interesting things that show you how that perspective drives surface and develop and future think and so forth. It all ties back to that basic fundamental building block. The cube is the basis of DNA. I'm not going to bore you today with this. I'm going to show you how to set up a very visually accurate one-point cube. We're going to start one-point perspective. Let's go like this. I'm going to do this first. Pardon me for cranking out this. I'm going to lay down a horizon line. Just draw right through it. This now is a horizon line. That's part of the dictionary, right there. That's it. I'm also going to pick a spot on that horizon line called, I'm going to label this. Let's do this. This is horizon line. If I get to the place throughout this whole conversation today, folks, where it kind of looks like, enough said, move on, please let me know. I'll keep checking the chat room here too. So this now becomes very critical. That point right there is called my central vanishing point. That central vanishing point is extremely vital. That tells me where I'm standing. I'm standing right there looking at this cube. And that is where my eyes are on that horizon line. So I'm going to build a cube, and I'm going to switch. Now I'm going to build the process here to show you how this begins to function. Now I'm going to come back in here. I'm going to pick a height and draw through it. Pardon me as I turn the paper here. I'm going to pick a height, run it through in red. I'm going to pick that point, hit a reference and a reference. I'm going to take that height and develop the face of a cube. I'm going to develop that by doing this. I'm going to take that radius and swing it right down, equal, equal. That height and that length have to be equal. We're developing a cube now. All four sides are equal. Now I'm going to take that same plot, that same plot line, and move it vertically. And I come up on top, stop right there. There it is. There's number one. What's really cool about that is now called, that red area right there, we're going to label that or designate that as a facing plane. That plane is facing right at me. And let me stop there just for a moment and give you a good definition. How many times have you heard in a conversation with drawing, for example, well, one-point perspective has one vanishing point. That's completely true, but it's also false. That is not a definition. That's an aspect. The definition of one-point perspective is simply this. When the object or the object you're looking at are parallel to your eyes. In other words, if I'm going to use an object here, if I take my iPhone and I set it up and look at it like face on, like that, that is now a one-point perspective. That face is parallel to my eyes. There it is. Now, when I move that around, that's a different matter altogether. But that definition is as long as that object is parallel to my eyes, that is now a one-point perspective, which now sets up this thing known as a, let's call this again, let's ink this in. This surface right here that I've just laid out in red is called a facing plane. That's looking right at me. That's the front side of the face of a cube. Very critical. Next step, I'm going to take that from that central vanishing point and draw drive lines. Those drive lines tell me where I'm going to place the corners. Draw right through them and draw right through them. We're going to develop a very typical one-point cube first. This is the next step that's really critical. There's a guy in history who was pretty famous. His name was Leonardo da Vinci. Da Vinci had a system of developing accurate, visually accurate cubes. To this day is, to me, astounding. Absolutely astounding. He stated, don't guess at accuracy. If you want to develop, let's say this is 0, and this is a 6-foot cube. That's the height. But how do I know that it's 6 feet back in space? Well, he came up with a very interesting and ingenious method of developing that visual accuracy by doing the following. Hey Caleb, how are you? He came up with an ingenious portion. I'm going to go through the stop first, and I'm going to magnify what he did. His premise was this. Da Vinci said, you know, that's interesting. You look at binocular vision. There's a strange phenomenon that takes place in binocular vision. That to see an image, the eyes cross over, and then they see the image upside down. Then they send the image back to the retina, which reverses it and sets it upright in the brain. Now, interesting. Notice, he said the eyes, right and left eye, shoot out there, and they cross over. He noticed that the angle of incidence in that crossover was 15 degrees. So he utilized that to develop a 15-degree inside cut line in the cube to develop proper accuracy. He did this. He took this nearest angle right here. Let's kind of tone this in. This is his nearest angle to where I'm standing right here in space. That bottom line right there. Let's kind of ink that in. That becomes my nearest angle to me where I'm standing. That's my nearest angle. Everybody with me so far? Hopefully. Good deal. Now that I take that, I'm going to take that angle down there and literally bisect it, just visually split it right in half. 90 degrees in perspective, 45, 45. There it is. I'm going to take that lower angle and trisect it. 1, 2, 1, 2, 15, 30, 45. Here he goes. Now he went like that. He goes like so. He took that same, that second line right there, that one, and drew it right back to horizon line, which is right here. And he called that point a special vanishing point. I'm going to magnify that in a moment here. Everybody with me so far? That's how accurate you can become visually to develop. We know that spot right there, that crosshair, is right here. It's that, move up, move up, move up, and cross it over. And look how that has just become. Let me ink that in. Move that around, move that around, and move that around. Look at how that shape back there. Now, my question to you is, does that look like a visually accurate one-point cube? Visually accurate, not mathematical. I'll wait here. Anybody? Thank you very much, Nemo. It is. It's visually accurate. I'm going to go back to this little. This guy right here is a secret to success in getting proper proportion down, no matter what you're dealing with or what you're building. Let me carry on here. Notice. Let me magnify that just for a moment. I'm going to go back and spend a little bit of time right here, and then we'll move on very quickly. That inside cut line is very critical. I'm going to put that right down here. That becomes the Da Vinciism of an inside cut line. That inside cut line is because it's termed because it takes the inside of the cube, cuts it, and distorts and makes it much more visually accurate due to binocular vision. Because the 15 degrees offsets the accuracy, or the inaccuracy. So here we go. Didn't know that. Boy, I tell you, it's amazing how, I mean, I didn't either, but Sid Mead taught this stuff, and I tell you what, it's proven. Every time I work with it, it proves itself every single time, Nemo. And everyone else who's listening, please believe me, it's absolutely foolproof. Let me magnify that for a moment here. Let's take that corner and magnify it. What he's done is this. Here's the corner magnified. It's this to that corner. And here's my drive line going back in perspective. He took that nearest angle right here, that angle right there on the ground plane. And he did the following with it. He took it and he bisected it first, visually. Just cut it in half, 45, 45. Let's do this, 45 degrees and 45 degrees. Split it right in half. Then he took that lower piece and went like so. Trisected it, 15 degrees, 30 degrees, 45 degrees. And took that first line, that one right there, and drew it right back through the cube until it went to horizon line, which is this point right here. Once you have that station point, once you drive that through and you get to that intersection on the ground line, that's your vertical. That distance back there this is 0. That is 6 feet back. Unbelievable. Works every time, gang. So hope that helps. And again, please forgive me. I do not want to get into a situation today where I bore the daylights out of you with these technical things. I want to get to the place where this becomes comfortable for you and you can develop this whole system very rapidly. Let's go back and do the following. Using that same system, let me extend that horizon line out here. Here's my horizon line. Let's pick another central vanishing point. It's that one. Now let's develop the cube. Let's get a vertical. Go vertical. Hit that point right there and swing that line right down and get that same distance right there. And by the way, too, it's not an embarrassment at all, folks, to be able to take this thing and probably reach in here. It's not an embarrassment at all to take this and do the following with it. If you don't feel comfortable getting that proportion right, take that height and just do this. Get that down. See how accurate I am here. Boy, look at that, right on the money. How cool is that? So equal. We're developing the face of a cube first. Let me get that out of the way here. Now let's finish out here. Let's take that point and run it vertically. Let's take that point, that height right there we started with, and run that right across. Now, that's now my facing plane. There it is. That's looking right at me. That's my facing plane. Now, I'm going to take those corners, drive back to my central vanishing point. And remember, that is where I'm standing. I'm going to go back and review that just for a moment. That's critical. I'm standing right there. That's where I'm standing, looking at my eyes on the horizon line right there. So that becomes very critical. All those drive lines go back to that. Now notice, here again, let's go back to the fundamental. Here's my basic, here's my ground line, there's my nearest angle on the ground, there and there, on the ground plane. Not this vertical piece, but on the ground. I take that back, and now I'm going to take that angle and bisect it, and I'm going to go and trisect it, 15, 30, 15, 30, 45. That first line right there, that one, I'm going to take that one and drive it right back to horizon line. I'm going to take that right through. And where that point intersects right there, notice, run it across, take it up, and run it over. Pardon me just for a moment. Let's kind of ink this in here. Drive that line through. Drive that line up. Pardon me for moving around here. There it is. There's the top, and there's the bottom. Once again, I'll ask you, look at that shape right there. Does that look like a visually accurate one-point cube? Excellent. Thanks very much, Shozan. A mystery revealed. It's true. I mean, there's so many secret things in drawing perspective that are absolutely paramount. And once again, does that or does that not? Thank you. Look like a visually, notice the key word here is visually accurate cube. Now, I'm gonna stop there just for a moment for what it's worth. Why do I emphasize visually? Here is something that is really strange, but it's true. It's a mystery. Have you ever tried to draw a cube mathematically using a ruler and a straight edge and so forth to make it all equal? Try that sometimes by using that method. Use it, try to draw it mathematically using a ruler and a t-square. It will never look accurate. It looks more rectangular than it does cubistic, more rectangle than it is cube. Hey, thanks, Chip. It is a cube. If you try to do that stuff mathematically, it turns out to be more rectangular than it is a cube. It is strange, but it's true. Here's why. Because when you measure with a ruler and a triangle and all that stuff, it discounts binocular vision. It now becomes ocular vision. It's singular. This is binocular vision. This is why this works so magically, because it requires both eyes working together to harmonize to make proportions become believable. You just can't do it. Binocular vision is the difference. Mathematics is ocular. It's monocular. Drawing is binocular. It opens up the picture plane. You see a larger spread. Therefore, that's why this little system with the inside cut line works and why it produces a visually accurate one-point cube. I want to show you a little trick too. This helping so far, gang? Let me know. So far, so good? Yes, you did. Yeah, you're actually right. Let's go back and get a horizon line down here. Let's kind of take this a little further. Let's do this. There's a horizon line. There's my central vanishing point. And remember, there again, let's label this in. Horizon line. Central vanishing point. I didn't do that up here, pardon me. Central vanishing point on that, for that cube. Here's my central vanishing point. Now I'm going to move here and do the following. I'm going to get a drive line. I'm going to build a cube. Come in here. Start it. Move it to, again, get that height. There's my height. Swing that down. And again, do you need to use that little trick? Don't be embarrassed to say, I want that same proportion there. And see how accurate. Oh, good deal. Right out of money. And there. Run it across. Now, go back to basic terminology where we started. That now becomes my facing plane. Reason why that changes. Yeah, and it really is. That pixel, it's amazing, fascinating, but that's an absolute truth discovered by Leonardo da Vinci. I was there to help him, so it was nice of him to make me part of the whole process. Don't I wish? I'm really that old. So anyway, here we go. Now that you've got the facing plane, right back to central vanishing point, drive lines. The reason they're called drive lines, because they drive you back in space. Let's get that accurate. Sorry. They drive the viewer back in space. That drive line, drawing right through it into drive line. Notice, there it is, gang. I've set up my frame. Really funny. Let me tell you a quick story here. Working with architects, they will literally do the following here. They'll look at this and say, oh, that's one-point perspective, because that's what we see traditionally. They'll look at this and say, huh, that's two-point perspective, because I can see this side and that side. No, it's not. It's still one-point perspective by definition. Remember, by definition, one-point perspective is the object or the object you're looking at remain parallel to our eyes. That surface is parallel. That surface is parallel. I could stand right here and walk all the way to Los Angeles. As long as that facing plane stays parallel to my eyes, it's still one-point perspective. That does not change. Now, I'm going to show you a little more extreme example here in a moment. Now let's do this. Let's come back and get this thing set up. Let's go back to the inside cut line. Here's my ground angle right here. So it's there and there. Now I'm going to take that angle and bisect it. Bring it right through the solid line. Take that angle, 1, 2, 15 degrees. Take it back to horizon line, which is right there. Let me extend that out a bit. Here's my special vanishing point. I'm going to tell you why that's critical to know that as a special vanishing point in just a moment. That's how we got there. Now, look where that intersection is. I take that, run it across, run it vertically, and connect the dots. Now notice, look at that. Just like that, you get this very instant one-point cube. Yes or no, gang? So far with me? Helping? Good? Excellent. Let's hope this is making sense for you. And I hope I'm not boring you to death. I want this to be fun. At the same time, there's a lot of rationale and reasoning behind it all. I want you to understand that as well. Just really interesting. So far, so good. Now, this is why this thing called the special vanishing point is so critical. This one, and especially in this multitude right here. That special vanishing point is going to do me a huge favor. Let's say I want to go back. Let's say this is 0, and this is 10 feet. How do I go back 20 feet? No problem. From that point right there, draw a line right back to your special vanishing point. Where it hits the ground plane right there, draw a line across. Go vertical, run it over, pop it in. See how that works? 0, 10, now I'm 20 feet back right there. That's 20 feet back because of that special vanishing point. Now, if I'm going too quickly here, let me know. That's how this function works. So I've used my inside cut line here to get that first cube down, nearest angle again, from that corner back to special vanishing point, ground plane intersection right here, draw the line parallel, go up, over, and down, second cube. Let's go back, let's go one more time. From this corner, take that line back to special vanishing point. That's why it's called special. Intersection, draw across, bring it up, connect the dots. Now I'm 30 feet back. Look how that proportion just falls right into place. Unbelievable. Oh, how special vanishing point was arrived. Let's go back to this first cube right here. Shazam. I've got my facing plane in here, right there, there, and there. I took the inside cut line by doing the following. First of all, I cut it at 45 degrees. 45, let me do this. 45, 45. So far, so good? Helping? Good. Now that I have that, I'm going to come back in. I'm going to take that 45 and go 15 degrees, 30 degrees, 45 degrees. I'm going to take that first 15 degrees and draw that line right back to horizon line. That now becomes my special vanishing point. Yeah, that's a great point, Nemo. Okay, back to Shozan for a moment. Is that helping, Shozan? You got it now? How we got there? Set. Great. Now that we have that, let's build that second cube. Here's my first cube right here. Let me beef this up. Here's my first cube. There, there, and there. Same process. Back to this corner. Add one. Go right back to special vanishing point. Intersection on the ground plane. Draw that across. Bring it up. Draw it over. Cool. There's 2 back. Want to go 3? Take that same corner. Back to special vanishing point. Intersection, go vertical, run it across horizontally, come up, there it is right there, 30 feet. That is perfectly visually accurate. You can't debate that. Here's an interesting comment made by an individual in history. Truth is a stubborn thing. You can't debate it. This is truthful. These are truths that become so paramount when you illustrate. When I draw an automobile, I really think in terms of what these things are telling me. That's why the proportions hopefully look good. That's why the surfaces look good. That's why I'm not worried about it being twisted or distorted, because I know proportion. Why? Because Sid Mead for 5 years drove it into our heads. 5 years, constantly. So I'm very confident about that. So let's do this. Let's say I want to add one. No problem. Let's want to go up one. Take that vertical and extend it. Take that vertical and extend it. Come back and just extend that. Extend those verticals right up. I'm going to build a cube off of that third cube. With me so far, gang? Neat. Now I'm going to take that same distance right here. Let's help you out here by doing the following. Let's take that distance right here. If you feel comfortable, take that height right there. Add it on top of there to get to that point right there. And take that line right back to CVP. Run it parallel. Run it through. Run it through. Run that up. Run that up. And then on top of that, there's that cube sitting on top of that last cube. How to build up and so on. Helping, gang? How to move through space. Really interesting how the whole thing begins to move through space. Let's see, Captain Nemo, what's he saying here? The true length of the paper gets shorter and shorter the further. Yeah, the closer you come back to the horizon line, this begins to diminish. Exactly correct. Very good, Nemo. So let's kind of do this. Let's get that back in place. There I am. There I am. I'm drawing right through that form. There's my cube on top of there all together. Now, this is interesting here. So far, let me wrap this page up here and hope that has made some sense for you. This is this is what I call the mathematics, or the real guttural work of putting together scale and proportion. That's how it begins to function. Start with a simple cube, how to work with a facing plane, how to develop the inside cut line, how to put the drive lines in place, use that cut line to get that right distance back, then build the rest of the back of the wall. Same thing again, when you move your view over, even though you're seeing this face and that face, it still becomes a 1-point cube, because this face right here remains parallel to my eyes, and that's why definition of 1-point cube is so critical. I hear it all the time from architects, interior space designers, or product designers, that 1-point perspective has one vanishing point. That's true, but it's not the full definition. So here we go. Ready, game? Neat stuff. So then over here, we went the same way. We just shifted our station point. In other words, where I'm standing. This is where I'm standing. This is where I'm standing for this upper cube. I'm standing right on that line right there. Then on this one, I'm standing over here. I'm moving around in space. I can shift that at will. So I can become much more, let's see, straps on helmet. Thank you. You begin to really move quickly through this thing by understanding how the proportions work. So hope that's been of some assistance to you here again. Let me do this. Let's kind of put this out of the way. We'll keep it here handy in case we need it for a reference. Let's go back and let's put this into practice. What I want to do here in this session is to take that same principle that we're working with here on a basic cube and develop a product with it. It's no longer just drawing boxes, but it has some merit to it. Now, why are we doing this? To get a really good feel for a very simple, I'm not going to draw any given object here. I just want to use it as a tool to develop the spatial dynamics and the sketch rendering skills that we're going to move into as we go through these lessons. So up here, I did a little 3-view drawing. Notice, 3-view drawing in the plan view, the front elevation, and then the side view. So I took that same process and did a little 3-view. Now I'm going to take that basic little format here, and let's say we're going to draw in 1-point perspective a little product. I'm not going to give it a title. It's not going to be a speaker, not be this or that, just an object, so we can see how it all begins to function. With me? All set to go? Let's go back in and do this again. I'm going to come back in through here, and let's do. This time I'm going to switch gears. Here's horizon line. As I go through this, I'll label it. Keep it all consistent. Here's horizon line. Oops. There we are. This is now my central vanishing point. This is now where I'm standing. That's really critical. I'm standing right there. I'm going to look at this object by drawing that surface, this guy, in 1-point perspective. So now I'm going to get the structure in place first. First, I'm going to do this. I'll come back in and pick up that vertical. Pick a height. Drop it over. And again, like we said before, if you feel comfortable, take that sheet of paper, make sure the proportions are right. Height, look at that, right on the money. Man, that's old age, gang. That's just good old-fashioned old age coming into play here. Now, let's get that baseline down. First of all, for your benefit, we're going to develop a facing plane. We're going to get that down. There's my facing plane of the cube right there. There it is. That's looking right at me. So far, so good. Now, drive lines. Let's put them in place. And let's take this guy and drive it through. Drive lines right back to my VP, or my central vanishing point where I'm standing. Now, let's use that inside cut line down to my nearest angle and on the ground, which is right here. I'm going to take that line and just bisect it and then trisect it. 1, 2. Take that first one right there back to horizon line. Notice, I did not need to extend my horizon line way out here. As long as that line begins to cut through that intersection right there on the ground. That's my depth. That point right there gave me an accurate look. Let's do this. Lightly. Up. Up. And over. I'm keeping that pretty light here, just so you can see. Isn't that cool how that works? That gave me the proper proportion of what I'm looking for because of that inside cut line. And Shazan, if you're still there, is it still making sense for you and everybody else helping? There we are. There it is right there. That's the cube. Now, I'm going to switch gears and go to pencil. Now we've got the cube in place. Now we're going to design that product. Notice it's got a bevel. I'm going to draw that across. that point, and that point. I'm going to use a perspective now to help develop this shape. See it, strike it. You got it. Come down. Come down. That's what that bevel looks like on the ground plane. There's the object. There's the object. Object. And let's put a little radius on this thing. Let's soften it off. And again, radius here. Pardon me, I turn the page here. And get that corner in place. And turn the corner here. There's that object right there. There's the plan view. That's what it looks like in perspective in pencil. So far, so good, gang? Helping? I want to make sure I take my time here and make sure we don't miss any steps here. Notice I'm using that cube now as a proportional block to develop this shape. Now, let's change this character. Let's kind of draw a line on here. Take it across that facing plane. Take it around the radius. And then right back to, let me sketch right through this. See it, strike it. There it is. There's that line going back in perspective. There's a design line on that shape. So I'm using those elements to develop the scale and proportion. Now, let's go back and do this. Let's say there's a recess in this thing on this side. And there, draw a little line in here. Come back across the top, sketch through that, and then sketch through this. And we get a little radius in here, a little radius there, there, and there. Notice. Now let's step it back. I'm going to take it back that far, right back in perspective. That line follows that line. There's a recess. Look how I've changed the character of that form by understanding how the perspective worked for me. Perspective first, the cut, the verticals, the detail, and all of a sudden I'm using those control points to help me develop proportion. If I put a little bit of recess and a little rendering on this thing, light source, for example, up on top here, let's do this. This is a recess. There it is. How clean is that? There it is. How simple does that work? Same thing down here. Leave a little bit of space. Here, start that. And go right back to the direction of light and shade this by doing that. Look how simple that is. Now, does that read, gang? No, that's how this whole thing begins to find. Let's go to another one here. Let's get the process in. Let's do this. Let's pick a height. I'm going to go through a series of little thumbnail sketches here. Now, let me clarify that. Let's do this. This will be a lot of fun. Notice those little vents on top. Sorry about that. I'm going to take that line back and go 1, 2, 3. Drop it in, drop it in. There's that little sketch. That sketch right there. Plan view, it's front view, and then it's side view. And then what I've done here is just taken that same shape and using the cube to develop that little form. Now, I'm going to take that same shape and modify it a little bit. I'm going to stretch it and add some things to it and move it around in the picture plane. Ready? I'm going to take that same principle. There's my height. Bring that line right down. Here's my first facing plane. I'm going to draw that and extend that just for a bit. I'm going to extend this. I'm going to take that first point right back in through here using the same central vanishing point. I'm still standing here, but now I'm taking the view, looking at it from this side. I moved it over to my right to see what I'm looking at here. So yeah, it is very simple, but it's powerful, Pixel. You're absolutely right. Very simple. Now, extend that over. Extend that over. And now I'm going to take that first cube. Let's drive that back. Let's drive that back. Let's use that same process again, that inside cut line. I'm going to go back down here again. Pardon me for switching gears. Here's my nearest angle perspective right there. That line and that line. And it's always on the ground plane. You build things from the ground on up. That's a tremendous aspect of it. When I design an automobile, I always plant the wheels first. Some of you have watched me on the stream during car design. I always start with the wheels, ground them first, and from the ground plane, work them on up from there. Same with the product here. Now let's go back and split that angle. Let's go back and very lightly. There's 45, there's 15, 30, 45. Hit that first line right back to horizon line. That's my very special point right there. That thing is now called, let's not confuse everybody here, central vanishing point where I'm standing, special vanishing point that helped me determine that depth. Now that I've got that cross section there, run it across, bring it up, run it over. There's that first cube in place. Simple as that. Just fell right into place. All set. Ready, gang? Now let's extend it over. I'm going to add another cube. I'm going to take that height right there, or that length, right? Extend it and extend it. I'm going to take that cube and move it over one by doing the same thing. And again, if you're not confident with it, and I say that respectfully, please don't misunderstand. If you really use that sheet of paper to get the scale right, by all means use it. Because after a while, you start to see more strongly, and you start to see how it all takes. Really interesting to take the time to go through the fundamentals first. After a while, it becomes automatic. The more you see it, the more you become familiar with it, and the more it's automatic. And I'll show you that in just a few moments here. So there's my height, right there it is right there. Take that same thing on my length, bring it over, and there it is right there. There's two. Here's another facing plane. I'm going to stretch that product by doing the following. Now, strike line, and again, strike line right through, building right. I'm seeing these things as glass objects. Now, extend that backside line in, bring that over, and look where the intersection is, there and there. All of a sudden, those two cubes are side by side, and they're perfectly proportional one to another because of that phenomenon of the inside cut line. Absolutely amazing. Here we go. You ready, gang? Now, let's duplicate that shape, but change its character. Now I'm going to switch gears and go to pencil. Let's take that thing and do the following. Let's take that same bevel and keep it, but let's make it more extreme. Let's cut that over the top. Let's cut that down again, in there. Let's cut that over in there, and there's my base. Let's bring that back. Let's radius the back of this. Radius again here. Product. Notice how that shrinks a little bit because of the radius. There it is there. Now, let's take that same design line. Let's take that line and stretch it. I'll come back in through here. It does this. Comes across that front. Terminates. Goes back in space by doing the following. It's that to that. Again, follow it through. Follow that through. Little groove line in there, and there's the back of that form, there and there. A little softer in through here. And there's the basic volume. Look how that all fell in place, just because of understanding where those surfaces are beginning to fall. Let's go back in and change the character here. Let's do this. That to that. Let's put that little window in place now. There it is. Notice, all I'm doing is following that slice plane, and that's telling me where that shape is going to fall, right there. Now, as far as depth goes, pick a depth. Notice, back in perspective. That tells me, why is that at an angle? Because that angle now changes from being vertical or horizontal to an angle. That shape, now let's put a little rendering into this thing. Well, let me slow down here for a minute, folks, and ask you a question. Am I going okay as far as pace is concerned? I hope I'm clarifying the message here, and if I'm not, please tell me. I'll be more than happy to slow things down. All right, very cool. How are we doing there? Yeah, all good. Thanks very much. So let's go back and put a little light source on. Same thing, light source out over here. We're going back in and tone this thing. There it is. And again, into the fillet. Turn the paper a little bit. See what that stroke pattern is doing? That stroke pattern is going on the surface, going right back to light source. So is this, but it's also following the surface. More about that later as we get more and more into this stuff. Hope this is helping, gang. Let me kind of put a little more tone in this thing. A little bit of fillet, and there I am. There's object number 2. Isn't that cool? There it is. Yeah, just wish I could record this. Oh, I'll tell you what, there's some things coming up. If you go to my website, when it comes up and running, you'll be able to record it all you want to. Let's see, it'll be on stream forward long. Yeah, super. Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Pixel. I appreciate that. Now, let's go back and let's do 2 more variations. I'm going to really show you how this whole process of learning how to see proportion does not change. Here's another way to look at it. Here's another way to really think about this. The objects that we see will change, but the process by which we build them will never change. They'll never change. Let me repeat that again. That's powerful. I'm really saying this with a lot of heartfelt sincerity. The objects that we'll draw or illustrate will change, but the process by which how we build them or draw them will never change. That's perspective. That's why this stuff is so powerful. These truths are fundamental. They cannot be debated. They're there forever. They're immortal. And if we build on them, they'll make us immortal. How about that for a comment? I'm not taking that one back either. I'm certainly not immortal, but I live in a life where, or my career is a fact that I'm not challenged. I'm challenged by a lot of things, but I'm confident in them. Not cocky. I'm confident in them. So here we go. Let's go back and look at this. Let's go back another horizon line. Let's do this. Let's get a horizon line down. I'm going to extend this again. This is where I'm going to be standing. This is now my central vanishing point. This is now my horizon line. There it is. So far, so good. Now let's build that first cube. Let's get that. Let's pick a height. Let's run it across, extend it a little bit. Let's take that same height and bring it over. There's my first cube. And before we go any further, let's make sure we're in the ballpark here. There's the height that I'm looking for. I'm going to take that same height and run it over here. Look at that. Again, old age. That is old age, gang. Nothing more. That's practice, 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 and a lot of old age. Now we've got those corners down. This is now, pardon me again for repeating myself, this is now my facing plane. It's looking right at me. Now I'm going to drive it back in space. Drive line, drive line, drive line, and drive line. Now, that same process again. Nearest angle in perspective is that line and that line. There's my nearest angle on the ground plane. Here I am. Divide it, split it in half, trisect it 1, 2. Take that first 15-degree line right there and run it right through. And when it intersects that point right there on the ground plane, at that station right there, that's my depth to make that cube accurate. Let's draw that right through. Let's bring it up. Let's bring that up. There's a perfectly accurate 1-point cube. That's my proportion start. Let's see. Present deductive list of insider number. Yeah, you're right, Chip. Thank you. It is the stuff of basis of perspective and building volumes. Absolutely correct. Well said, Chip. Thank you. So let's extend this over. Now I'm going to, instead of building 2, I'm going to build 3. I'm going to extend this over, extend that line over, and that backside line through, and then the front face through. I'm going to take that same height and do the following. Bear with me here, folks. This is where it gets to be fun. So let's do this. It's going to be, there's my length. 1, 2, and 3. There I am. There it is. Now I take that point. Just bear with me here, folks. Go vertical. Go vertical. Contact, contact. Now I've gone 3 over. I've just changed the proportion by understanding how the first proportion worked and how to use that. Ready? Go back over here. There it is. And there it is. I'm going to draw that right through. Now, let's go back. Let's take this baseline now and connect it back to CVP. Draw through it. Again, contact, draw through it. Look what happens. Extend over. There's my contact, vertical. There's my contact, vertical. There are 3 cubes all set up with the same proportion to change the shape of this thing. Here we go. You ready? Now, so again, we talked about variation of the theme. Let's stay with the same basic shape. I don't want to get locked into doing a thing. I just want to get something established, how to use the system. No matter your creativity can take over from here. Let's get that same bevel in place. I'm going to go there. There it is. And drop this down. Drop that down. Take that same point, run it over. There's my bevel. I'm going to take that backside line and run it right through until I get to right there. There it is there. And again, same process here. Take that distance and bring it over here. And then let's ink that in. There's that same shape. Look how this becomes much fuller, that becomes much shorter because I'm moving away from my eye plane. These are equal in size, but because of the perspective, it changes the proportion. There we go. Now let's go back in and give it the same character. Let's pick a design line, bring it in here. Let's bring that design line through. Bring it back up again. Notice I'm going to find that spot by running right through. It's there. There's my termination point right there. Again, secondary line, draw that in, run it across, parallel to me, and again, recess, recess. There it is. There's that shape going times 3, but keeping it really in excellent perspective. Oh yeah, drawing those cubes. Yeah, you're right. Let's get a little recess in it again. Let's do that. Now this is fun. Let's take this around the corner now. Let's go here and change a variation. Here, bring around the form here, bring around the form here. This is how that works. Here's the depth. Take it back in perspective. Back in perspective. Run that through here. And again, notice that line right there is going to tell me it's going to go right in there. Here's how that recess worked. Isn't that cool? See how they did that? Again, I picked the depth, went back, dropped it, took it on an angle, in perspective, got the intersection, dropped that through, in perspective, brought it over, stopped it there, took that line right back to central vanishing point where it tells me where that vertical went. So let's put a little bit of tone in this one now. There's a render here, does this. And again, down into that, those little radius. Let's take that into light source. Run that across. And again, here. There's that shape. Going 3 back. Well, I hope this is helping, gang. You've been extremely, extremely patient here. This is really nice of you to stay with me here. This is not an easy subject matter to get across. So there you are. So you're taking that basic cube. Let me just for a moment here. We're taking that basic cube now and putting it into some sort of rhythm where it begins to tell us that where that story is going to unfold. Let me see if I can get these guys in place here. There we go. We're taking that basic story and using it as an element to develop shape and form. So let me move on here very quickly here, gang. Let's go through our last little study here, and not to bore you to death. Let's go back again. Let's change pace. Let's move over a little bit. There's my horizon line. Here's my central vanishing point and my horizon line. Now, let's develop a cube. Let's come down here. Let's pick a height. Go over on the ground plane. I'm going to modify that just a bit. There it is. I'll take that point and that point right there. Let's double check it to make sure we're in good shape as far as developing a facing plane. So it's that to that to that. There we are. Very cool. So there's my facing plane right there, gang. Now back to drive lines. This to this to this. Draw right through it. There I am. Now, come right back again. Here's my nearest angle on the ground plane. Pardon me let me rotate the pad back here for a moment. Ready? Ground line there to there. That angle right there is critical. Let's ink that in. That angle on the ground plane is where my inside cut line is going to take place. So I'm going to take that line, go 50, split it, 45, 15, 30, 45. That first line through, intersection right there. Now, take that point, run it across, run this up, run that up, and let's ink that in just a bit. Very scratchy, fundamental sketches. Just getting proportions down. Let's get the base. There's my bevel cut of that first shape. There it is. Let's finish this out. Radius, the radius, the radius. Put that line in place here. Let me stop right there. Put a little bit of fillet on that guy. Look at how that volume changed. Isn't that cool? There it is. And there it is. Now let's put that into play. Let's put that angle in place. I'm going to run that across. Take that, run it right up parallel to my eyes. There it is. Put that little cut line in place. Run that through. Draw it. Draw it. Again, there's my shape. There it is. Simple as that. Oh, we okay? Sorry about that, guy. Tracking the window across. How are we doing video-wise? Is it all right, guys? Yeah, there you go, Shazan. That's right. No longer geometry. Now it looks like art. You're absolutely correct. Ah, good. Thanks, Chip. Appreciate that. Now let's give it a little bit of character to it like we did before. Let's change that pace. Bring it in. Bring it in. Put that little recess in so we can see the relationship of all 4 sketches and how we're dealing with it. That line stays parallel. There it is. We're going to cut it back. Run it back in an angle. Run that through. And again, take this guy and just start to tone it. Put it in shadow. Down below, same process, same direction again, direction of light. Run that across. And there you have it, gang. There's an example of taking a simple 3-view like we've done here and starting with variation 1, variation 2, 3 by stretching it to 3 cubes and going vertical with it. And just how it changes the volumetrics all the way around. For about a minute. Oh, sorry about that, guys. Well, maybe that minute Pixar probably didn't say anything important, so hopefully, hope it didn't hurt matters there. Anyway, given shape and form. Oh, set, good. Thank you. How are we doing here, gangs? Now, let me review here just for a moment. Let's go back, and I'm going to go one more shot here with this thing. There's how we started. The fundamental truth of putting together proportion by using a cube. How to build it using the inside cut line. Moving the station point around where I'm standing and moving the station, and then going 3 back and 1 up on how to divide that, how to add those in there, absolutely paramount. Making sense, gang? So that's how we started. Then we took that same process and said, you know, what do we go ahead and take that same cube, do a little 3-view, put it in a 1-point perspective, single cube. 1-point perspective, two cubes. Moving the station point, or I'm standing in the same place, but I just shifted the volume over. Third one was taking that same principle and adding 3 cubes and getting the proportion to change. And then the last one we did was just taking a smaller cube, so to speak, to start with, but adding 1 on top of that. So that we'll see how that looks. So there we are, guys. Let me close with this. I'm going to wrap up just a couple of things here. Let me just do this very quickly. So you can see, once you get to the place where it all begins to make sense, let me just do this very quickly. A little thumbnail sketch. Here's my horizon line. And draw that through. We're going to take this a little further. I'm going to take this guy right here and maybe switch to architecture. Let's see how that does. Here's where I'm standing, my central vanishing point. I'm going to come out here and develop this shape. Run it parallel. Run it parallel. Let's get the volumes in first. There it is. I'm going to come back out of here again and do this. Run that parallel. Run that parallel. I'm going to come back out again and do this. Using that same central vanishing point, just coming out of here and changing some of the volumes. Going right through. Those are 3 geometric volumes right there. Now, let's turn it into something that's kind of interesting here. Let's do this. Remember my silence. Okay, I'm just trying to illustrate a point here about how important it is to get that perspective to really work for it. This is all of this is a 1-point perspective. Not very exciting, but there it is. There, folks, is an example of what, notice how it all started. Let me review here. With me so far? Does that make sense? That's some greatness coming on. No, not really. Let me catch up on here. So, right. Get back to sound. Very good. Sense this is what lots of practice. Yeah, that's right. Makes it look easy. No, it's really difficult. Very cool to see how this all gets built up. Yeah, again, let's go back again. This sketch right here, folks, is a result of what this stuff is doing. Notice, I work with one. Let me go back and review. We'll close it all down here. There's my horizon line, right through here. There's my horizon line. I create that right. Every line came off of that CVP, right back into it, all the way through. All I did was take those basic cubes or those basic volumes, and because I know what the proportions are, I could change the character of this stuff at will. That's what's great about this whole magic of being able to draw and seeing perspective for what it is. Here's a great line to work with here. If you're ever in doubt about this, sight is a faculty, no question about that. But learning how to see is an art form. What we've just done here for the last hour is taught ourselves, including me, how to really truly see how space operates by understanding the fundamental truths of how it all begins to function. So there it is. That's it right there. There's this example of putting the practice into practice, a little product, and then once you become more comfortable with it, whoever's listening out there, the more comfortable you get with this stuff, the more powerful it becomes. That now is a 1-point perspective, just like this is. Pardon me here, folks. I got to do this to show how, and we'll go back into this next Monday with another lesson here, how really powerful this is. I can take that same principle and do this. Oops. Now, let me stop right there. Make sense, gang? Now, what kind of perspective is that? I'm asking you a question here, folks. I'm waiting for a response. What kind of perspective is this? Look at it very carefully. We've learned two important aspects. By definition, one-point perspective. One-point perspective is when the object or objects you're looking at remain parallel to your eyes. For example, let's use this basic cube. That surface right there, that facing plane remains parallel to my eyes. I'm looking right at it, no perspective whatsoever. That's one of the great definitions of one-point perspective. The second thing we learned was that you have to learn how to use the inside cut line or the facing plane to develop the depth. And perspective is always dynamic. Point number 3, always dynamic. What kind of perspective is this? I just gave you the clue. Anybody? This is going to be helpful to me that I'm making sure I'm getting my message across. And I don't want to confuse anybody. Anybody? Oh, very cool. Let me resolve the mystery by doing this. This is Shazan. You got it, man. It's a one-point perspective. Good man. That's exciting. Good for you. That is really cool. All of you, you've got it. Almost in the third dimension. That's what dynamic perspective does. Belden Black, you're right. A good perspective drawing will give you the dynamics of almost being a three-dimensional image all the time. Let's do this. Why is this a one-point perspective? Let me make a mess out of this sketch. Here's my facing plane right here. Here's my first cube. Here's my second cube. Here's my third cube. And lo and behold, there's my fourth cube. Isn't that amazing? There it is. There it is. Now, as far as drive line goes, this is where my horizon line is. My horizon line is down here. This is my horizon line. So it's now, I'm standing here looking at that car that's doing this. That to that. The one perspective, second perspective to give me the depth. There it is. Why is that? It's no different than what we did right here, folks. Look at that sketch right there. That sketch right there is this same principle, just turned around. And there it is. Does that make sense? Hopefully I explained that properly. Here's my first facing plane. That gave me 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's say this is 5 feet. 5, 10, 15, 20 feet in length and 6 feet in depth. There it is. See how that works, gang? That's a one-point perspective. Facing plane, added to give me the length, and then going back in space to give me the depth. There it is. That's why this stuff is never, ever going to lie to you. It's always going to be your best friend. It's a huge asset to have in play here. And again, back to this dumb architectural sketch I did here. Every one of these volumes are built off of that same principle that we talked about right here. Very much so. So let me recap this. Anybody have any questions at all or concerns that I didn't cover well? Please feel free to speak up here. We'll get ready to wrap this thing up so we can get you on your day here. And again, cannot thank you enough for joining me here today. So much fun to be a part of the process with you all. And thanks for your patience of being with me today on a very difficult subject matter known as perspective. It's a dreaded term, but once you begin to learn how it operates, it becomes your closest ally. Phenomenal. And see how to draw the object, then work backwards to show how well. Yeah, there it is, Pixel. That's what it does. So once again, I've got this publication going here, folks. Let me just kind of tell you what's going on here. I've got this publication going on, Drawing in Dynamic Perspective. I'm going to start to retune this thing. And if you have any interesting, let's see, plan to soak up. No question yet. Yeah, you're right. If you have any interest in this becoming part of your vocabulary or part of your library, I'm going to put some finishing touches on this, and I'll make it available for purchase on my website here at jim@drcontrast.com. If you're interested, let me know by email. Again, drop me a note if you're interested in here. Pass it on to your friends as well. Looking at, for example, drop me a message at jim@drcontrast.com. We'll make sure we get back with you on the status of this thing. I'm also doing this. Gang. I'm also putting together a sketchbook called Genesis. This is a real fun one. This one really moves into areas, for example, where it gets into architecture, volumetrics, and I won't take the time to go through it today, but it goes into car design, product design, interior space, and architecture. It's all part of the process here, folks. So I'm starting to pull this thing together. So I'll keep you posted on all that. And once again, I cannot sincerely thank you enough for being patient with me. It's great to watch you guys react to this stuff. And I'm really thankful that you're part of the audience here. So I've always closed with this. So please, if I've done something right here, tell me. If I've done something right or wrong, tell me. But above all else, I really appreciate if you would let your friends know that I'm available on Monday, Wednesday, Friday on the stream here to join. I really expand my audience and get more impact here. So tell your friends what it's all about here. I hope you're enjoying it as much as I am. And again, thank you so much. Have a great day. And I always close with this. Always remember to never forget to dare to be great, because you are. Take this stuff and really build on it and have a lot of fun with it, and enjoy yourself, gang. And thanks again for being very patient. I appreciate every one of you, and I'm looking forward to doing some great things with you as the time moves on here. So once again, and one last announcement, pardon me again. My website hopefully will be up and running soon. We've made a lot of changes. It's taken a lot more time than I thought it would, so please forgive me for the time spent here. But I'll keep you posted when it becomes active too. Look forward to seeing you on Wednesday. Pass the word out to your friends. On Wednesday, we're going to do some advanced Ferrari stuff. It'll be really cool. So we're going to put perspective into action by doing some drop-dead Ferrari stuff. Well, maybe drop-dead, but just fun stuff. So once again, everybody, thanks for stopping by. Have a great day and take care of yourself. And dare to be great. Remember, thank you.